Hi, folks. Payments Canada and the Canadian financial institutions have all been putting significant effort into modernizing the payments rails. But as we progressively get closer to the launch of Links as well as the RTR, it's time to start talking about the future. So today, we've got an outstanding panel. As Rob Glasky outlined in his keynote yesterday, we're seeing the future of value transfer being driven by faster innovation from a range of different players and involving more than conventional payments rails. The outstanding panel that we have today will talk about how financial institutions are seeing the opportunities and the barriers, as well as the role of new technologies and new players as we move to this really exciting future. So the panel that we have today is really experienced and great thought leaders on behalf of the whole sector. So I'm joined by Christine Hunter, the Vice President of Payments at TD Bank, and Jude Leclerc, who wins the prize for longest title, Country Head Global Liquidity and Cash Management Products at HSBC Canada, Lisa Luinenburg, Vice President Payments, CIBC, and Sheila Vokey, CEO of Central One. So we've got prepared remarks for about 30 minutes, and then we're going to pop into Q&A. And so please feel free to put comments into the chat bar below. So Christine, I'm going to kick off with you. So TD's a leader in delivering legendary customer experiences. What do you think the legendary bar is in payments that we should all be aspiring?
Thanks, Todd, and hi, everyone. Well, first of all, the future of payments is competitive, it's digital, it's data-driven, and it's disruptive. And so that means it's pretty exciting for all of us here today, and hopefully as consumers and for those business owners in the crowd, it's equally exciting. From a TD perspective, you're absolutely right. It's in the DNA of TD and TD employees to be customer focused. We think of our payments opportunity as connected, trusted, modern, and green. So we look to truly stand up a platform for change. If I were to double click on that, I'd talk about key themes like choice. Right? So put the customer at the heart of all of this. And unlike ever before, choice for our consumers, businesses alike is paramount. We need to be where the customer is. And interestingly, that takes us, from the protectionism that it has historically existed around the brand and propels us into being much more open-minded about partnerships, ecosystem plays, and truly being there for the customer wherever they choose to spend their time and move money, make payments. Trust is something that is paramount in the payment space and in financial institutions. Trust means that our payment processes work and that we anticipate that, unfortunately, sometimes things will go wrong. And so how we treat the customers when things go wrong and how we step up our games to fight against the ever complex and growing world of cybercrime and the threats that we face, that we're well positioned to do so and be very transparent with clients. And then obviously the last kind of horizon there is when we talk about modern, connected, and so on is the removing friction from experiences. People are not focused on moving money. They're looking to shop, to buy, to run their businesses, and so on and so forth. So removing friction is critical. When I talk about data-driven, there's a great amount of opportunity to use data to be smarter, to be faster, to be more responsive, and to anticipate customers' needs. So, we've learned a lot through the pandemic. We've moved mountains. And what I'd leave you with in my opening remarks is just that I think now is the time to fully digitize, even for the business segment. So we've made strides, but I think now is the time, unlike ever before, to truly bring this forward For example, in that context, checks may not actually be going away. I don't think they are, but let's kill the fax machine. So back
Well,
to you.
that is a perfect segue to Jude. So Jude, you and I have been on a number of panels talking about the future of commercial payments. It'd be great to hear from your perspective. What are the key needs for corporates in the future? Over to you, Jude.
Thanks. And yeah, I agree. Thank you for giving me a nice softball there, Christine. Yeah, I've been on the commercial side of banking now for over a decade. And one of the key things on the commercial side is the sheer volume of payments and the frequency of those payments. And so when you're making that kind of volume of payment, that speed of payment, you need to know what those payments are for. That reconciliation piece is so important. And so for me, it's all about the remittance data. It's all about that digitization and that remittance data. The remittance data means that we include that data in the transaction as it moves across, various networks and whatnot, not having to go, as Christine mentioned, to a fax machine to get the adjoining addendum that tells me that payment for $39 was for so-and-so supplier. So having those two move together is really important. It allows our clients, to access that data a lot more quickly. It allows them to streamline their back-end processes, and ultimately that means that they can reduce their costs. So remittance data, top of mind. But as part of remittance data, it's that standardization of the remittance data. When we're talking to our clients, our commercial clients, we hear all the time how Excel is the most powerful tool in their organization, because ultimately they're getting it through all these different means, and Greta in the back office needs to pull this all together through an Excel VLOOKUP to put together, get a clear picture of what's going on with their business. And so the idea here is this is a very repetitive task for someone like Greta to do the reconciliation on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. And so that's the kind of area that's ripe for automation. So remittance data, standardization of data, leads to automation, which for our customer means, like I said, streamlining of back-end processes, and as well as ultimately reducing costs. And that, of course, means that we can repurpose Greta into more value-add activities. But I wouldn't, that's one big area that domestically or internationally, it doesn't matter, that has to be a massive focus. The other focus, I think, is simpler cross-border payments. I know with the greater globalization of all our economies, so too are the globalization of our client needs. And so they're continuously looking for ways for us to send and receive payments abroad efficiently and cheaply. I think an argument can be made that we are fairly efficient as an industry globally in sending payments, but cheap might not be but cheap might not always be it depends on how it's being sent, etc. So focus on that area as well is very important. So key needs, remittance data, standardization, automation, cross-border payments, made simply.
Well, Jude, really appreciate that. So Sheila, you represent the largest number of financial institutions, and your folks serve a ton of Gretas. So when we think about what the credit unions are doing and innovative, new players, what's top of mind for you folks in terms of these unmet consumer and corporate needs? Sheila, you're on mute.
There she is. Oh.
I am so sorry. My mouse just would not unmute.
Well, you know what? Every single panel has to have this. So you win the award. Over to you.
Thank you, Sheila.
And I was just saying nice things about Christine and Jude. So thanks, everyone. It's nice to be here today. And I think we're going to hear a lot of similar themes, even though we all come in different shapes and sizes. What's going on and in front of us, it's all about the things you've said, data, and really resonating with the customer, right? So in the credit union space, we have a lot of opportunities as well to be innovative and really seek those opportunities with partnerships and leverage technology to really deliver value. And Central One, as Todd said, is unique from its structure perspective and its role in the credit union space. We process about 645 million payments, including Interact e-transfers, and annually on behalf of 295 financial institutions, which hits 5 million Canadians and businesses. So in that sphere, in the English language sector, I think we're the largest payment process for credit unions, processing the majority of these payments. So you back up, we're really not a conventional type financial institution. We are regulated, but we're also that service provider, aggregator, and enabler. And I guess looking at what's happening now, we really see looking forward, collaboration and aggregation is growing, and there's lots of different participants. For us, we're thinking about how do we do this business? We've been thinking about this for a while, really out of necessity from the perspective of we can't do it all. So maybe as an example, going back to 2018, we were hearing loud and clear along the comments Jude just mentioned about low cost cross-border payment solutions. We knew that traditional wire payments, a staple in our offering, just really weren't meeting the needs in this area. So we partnered with a Vancouver-based fintech called Agility Forex that offers a proprietary way to make money cross-border with low cost, or in some cases zero cost. And so today we've got this rolled out to about 100 clients who've signed up for the service, and it operates in 27 currencies. So this is just an example of, similar to what Christine and Jude just said, really reaching out and wanting to make sure that we leverage well and create these strategic partnerships and try to tackle it not as a one-off. So we try to learn from this success here, and have set up actually a wholly owned subsidiary, which is called Central One Ventures. And we're using this to really identify, support, and develop mutually beneficial relationships with companies who could help us to really drive innovation and growth in the credit union system. So this is an important area that we want to make sure we keep this door open. We're thinking about Central One Ventures as really laying the foundation here to keep it open and create further strategic partnerships that will complement and develop further, hopefully, innovative products for the system.
Thanks, Sheila, and that's a great segue to you, Lisa. You've been involved in a wide range of payment innovations, including, the first in Canada, BlackBerry Bold 6600 on its SIM card payments, which seems ridiculous to say today. But that said, I love your perspectives on some of the major new innovations that you see financial institutions, fintechs, and big tech deploying in.
Great. And thanks, Todd. And it's great to see everyone and connect with everyone again. Assuming in the backdrop, we have a faster payments rail that's carrying a lot of data and contextual data and a robust risk framework surrounding that to ensure the safety and security of the payment system. And that's kind of job one. I think there's a tremendous opportunity for innovation in Canada for big tech, fintech, and financial service providers. So, at CIBC, we are spending a lot of time developing strategies and actioning plans to modernize and transform the payments experience. And, when I look forward, it's not about the payment. It's about the experience around the payment. And as all my other panelists have already said, that's about the data. And the data is going to allow us to transform that experience. And, especially in the big tech space, who have great strengths using, leveraging, analyzing, and harnessing data, I think you're going to see, a lot globally, as well as come to Canada over time in terms of the transformation of the interface. And, when I look forward, and I think about payments experiences and value add, I don't know about you folks, but no one in my family is telling me about, jumping out of bed and wanting to pay a bill. Like, it's not exciting for people. But what is exciting for people is making people's lives easier and automating. And, you know, when I look at the future in kind of this space, I think there's tremendous opportunities to bring together across, you know, businesses or consumer, all of those functions and activities involved with cash flow management and payments, and address a lot of the real issues and pain points today. And so I think we'll start to see real integrated digital platforms, and, you know, that bring together both payment acceptance, accounts payable, receivable, analytics and purchasing and marketing, and ways for businesses to actually get, you know, increase and get better at targeting their clients, and embedded financial services. And I think, you know, the more that all of us in the ecosystem work towards that, how can we make our customers' lives smarter, simpler, safer, and frictionless, the better the whole ecosystem is going to be. And I see it the same on the consumer side. I think the value add is just different. In the interface, you're going to see rewards and merchant offers and money management insights from all sorts of players at the front end. And I think that's all, you know, critical and all powered by data and payments data. And so I think, you know, going forward, there's lots of innovation for all players in the ecosystem to make our clients' lives easier.
Thanks, Lisa. That's a really good segue over to you, Jude. So if you look at the innovations that Lisa was talking about, HSBC has been active globally with a range of potentially transformational technologies, whether it's AI, open APIs, open banking, you name it. What do you see the role of some of these technologies playing in Canada, and how they can help accelerate innovation?
Huge role. Absolutely huge role. I'll tackle AI first. We'll do API next. So AI, you know, we talk about STP, and a lot of our big organizations like a bank, but it's the same thing with a lot of our corporate clients and some of our smaller commercial clients. We think STP means straight through processing, but what it actually means is straight through Pedro. There is a manual component to so many of the things that we do. And bringing in artificial intelligence, AI, bots to do a lot of the work where you have repetitive manual inputs is a great place where you can utilize AI. For example, I'll just high level billing. You know, we're going to have a lot of clients where, especially on the commercial side, you've got negotiated pricing. That pricing, once it's negotiated, once it's documented, it's got to make its way into a system so that a rate line can be recorded and the billing can happen on a monthly basis, quarterly, whatever. In a lot of places, that's people. You've got teams that are actually manually inputting all of this. It doesn't have to be. It can be bots. You can transform that space and automate that data entry. So AI, like this is an example here at HSBC, but you've got a lot of that going on within our corporates, within our clients as well. Finding those areas where you can do that transformation and where you can bring in those bots is huge. Huge, because obviously you're going to be able to speed up a process. You're going to be able to remove a lot of those manual errors that we live with today. And, and ultimately speeding up the process and elimination of manual errors means saving costs, both for us as a banking industry, but also for our corporates as clients. So to me, AI and the transformation of our own back offices and what that is really important. The other area where we see a lot of the AI is where AI is helping us learn to better serve our customers. So being able to decipher patterns of behavior so that we can quickly and en masse help us respond to clients and deliver products, services, et cetera, that would better serve our clients. So that's a big area. On the API side, we are using more and more APIs. It's become a big focus on the IT side. Certainly at HSBC, but we're not alone here. There's really two areas for me in APIs. There's the externally focused APIs, which really help our clients do things, and then there's a lot of the internal APIs. On the external side, we've got a lot of products, for example, at HSBC, like Global Disbursements, that's got using APIs, allows their clients to get real-time FX for when they're making their cross-border payments. We've got products such as Liquidity Management Portal that allows their clients to have real-time access to their balances, which allows them to make better either investment or transactional decisioning, and not having to wait, let's say, for end of day for things to be updated and whatnot. So those APIs are helping our clients to better their decisioning, integration into the ERP systems, and obviously facilitate their own work. Internally, as a bank, same thing. We've got a lot, like our clients, we got a lot of legacy systems, and having those systems, historically, we would have used, end of day batching or file-based delivery to connect all of this together. Moving towards APIs allows us to have a lot, it's less static, a lot more flexibility and scalability on how we are able to respond to clients and how quickly we can churn out some of the data that's required for our clients. But I think as an industry, we still have a lot of legacy systems, and that spaghetti of legacy systems can only work. We can't do miracles with API if the underlying infrastructure is a spaghetti of legacy systems. So we have to be working through that layer by layer by layer. And I think so. We have a ways to go as an industry, but definitely a lot of opportunities there. On the open side, open API side, I think great opportunities there. That's where we're obviously publishing those API standards and making them available publicly so we can partner up with fintechs that can use the data and plug into it directly. It's great. I think it opens the door for a lot of our partnerships, a lot of innovations, and it's very attractive. And it definitely has a big role in a modern economy, but I think we still have a ways to go as an industry there. We are, like I said, still challenged with those legacy systems and that spaghetti that we're all dealing with, not just within banking, within our corporate clients as well.
Well, Jude, thank you very much for bringing us that global perspective. And Sheila, I just ask you to talk about what you see as the barriers and the opportunities to driving this great innovative future in the credit union system.
Thanks, Todd. I'll cover off the barriers first, and I have kind of two of them. An obvious barrier is size. Individually, as you can imagine, many credit unions lack the resources to keep pace with the sheer magnitude and complexity of the change in this dynamic period. There's an awful lot going on, and as you suggested, the pace of change is just accelerating. It's not slowing down. And so to address this, Central One and its clients are really working together on strategic investments in technology so we can try to keep pace and adapt and pivot along the lines that we all have been saying. With modern architecture, is the only way we'll be in a better position to seek out opportunities. So really working together to get that scale is absolutely important. A second barrier, I would say, for the system is lack of flexibility and choice in how some credit unions actually access the core payments infrastructure. It's been a barrier for some of our clients. Most credit unions really aren't eligible today to participate directly in Payments Canada systems right now for a lot of reasons historically, and some would like to move towards a direct relationship there. So we are working actively with Payments Canada to look into this so that our clients can leverage Central One if they want to, but also can consider going directly to the rails if that's also what they want to do. And so this is an important area for us to continue to focus on. On the opportunity side, I would kind of aligned with my comment earlier. We decided a few years ago that a key role that we can play in the ecosystem is really to be that lighthouse for fintechs for the credit union space. So really trying our best to attract and enable relationships, partnerships, by really delivering scale and efficiency and being that funnel to bring it to the system. So Central One, from a marketing perspective to fintechs, it really is the front door to efficiently reaching 5 million Canadians. And so in that regard, we've stood up an API library. We're continuing to build this out and really want to make it easier to bring collaboration to credit unions. our C1 venture area is also one that we're continuing want to build out that role for open banking as well as payments modernization to make sure we're facilitating more collaboration and innovation. And like all of us, we know innovation really isn't for its own sake. It is there to solve a problem usually, or to bring about a new experience or opportunity. And so really, because the credit union system is all about relationships, and at the heart of their DNA is understanding what their customers do, I think this really is an opportunity to continue to focus and leverage that DNA to make sure that we focus on bringing innovation with a clear purpose to really end up solving our end members, the Canadians' end user needs. So there's opportunities, and equally there's challenges along the way. I'll leave it there, Todd.
That's great. Thanks a lot, Sheila. So, Lisa, open banking, central bank digital currencies, any range of these big regulatory things have been pretty predominant themes, earlier today and certainly yesterday. Love to hear your views on what these things will mean in the context of the future of value transfer.
Yeah, for sure. Great. Todd, so on CBDCs, super interesting area. I'm sure everybody's been reading all the articles, both in Canada and abroad. This is a hot topic and lots of central banks are looking into this. And, there's many reasons to. In Canada, the context is very different in terms of, the payment system and the certain options and services that we have available for Canadians. So, with central bank digital currencies, it's not quite clear to me what the use cases are and what it will solve for. And so I think in this space, we've got some really good alternatives for Canadians today. And I think the real-time rail and account-based payments will also contribute to that, tool set for Canadians in payments. So I think this area is really uncertain on how it will unfold in Canada. I wish I had some, bigger statement to make on it, but that's kind of my view on that. And then in terms of, you're right, like there's some really big regulatory changes that are coming, including the Retail Payments Act and the opening up of the payment system for PSPs and other entrants. And so this will have a huge impact, I think, to how payments unfold in Canada. Being able to initiate payments, hold funds, and create and innovate around that. We've seen kind of globally what some other players can do. Foundational to this has to be the safety, security, and the protection of clients from a market conduct perspective, obviously. But I do think that will have a big impact on new players and changes around funds transfer. And then lastly, on open banking, on the retail side, we haven't seen a huge, change globally in other jurisdictions around those regulatory changes or initiatives. And, I think it's a really important thing for Canada. It's, the portability of data and payments initiation is important to transform kind of our country into a digital economy. And, again, it's the future is kind of uncertain. We will get there. And again, the importance of setting in place a robust framework to enable the protections that we all know and have come to really appreciate and love in Canada around a safe, secure, and resilient payment system need to be withheld with any new entrant or any sort of change to who can initiate payments in Canada. So I think with open banking, again, you'll see changes. It just won't be immediate. I think it will happen over time, as you've seen in other jurisdictions.
Well, thanks a lot, Lisa. Christine, one of your many day jobs includes being the chair of Payments Canada's MAC. So you're in a really unique position to hear from a lot of folks around what are some of the really important impediments to innovation that we need to address so that we can achieve the kind of vision and outcomes that you've all been talking
Well, here's a perspective, Todd. This isn't about innovation. So in fact, every day, and I could go through a laundry list of innovations that are happening in this country and abroad, right? And the amazing things that have happened through the pandemic, whether it's the success of PayPal, Shopify, and this digital adoption curve that we've seen, the amazing feats in pushing out government subsidy relief payments to Canadians and again others abroad. The move of contactless limits, the hundreds of paytechs that exist in this and thrive in this country, and the millions of employees that we all sent home as the pandemic hit us, in this remote working environment, which is just absolutely amazing. What we're doing at Payments Canada is we're looking to innovate at scale. And we're looking to do that in a way that brings benefits to all. And thoughtfully, that's not small or large beneficiaries. That's, again, all. And so what we're looking to protect against is that it is to the benefit of the large, for example, right? Are we making, setting the bar too high and setting standards such that only the most sophisticated players could actually adhere to the standards? So as we come around the tables at Payments Canada and think about the full ecosystem perspective, Payments Canada has a very critical role, and we with them play a very critical role. And we're at a stage, we're at the first stage, right? We're at the standards phase. We're at the imagine phase of this journey that will ripple through, and everyone will play a role. So I think one of the impediments actually is, and yet I feel incredibly proud and believe that Canada has a very unique and powerful opportunity to collaborate. But I think it's recognition that everybody has a role to play, and that there is so much innovation that's going on around us and can go on around us. But that at Payments Canada, it's about commonality, standards, and setting the stage for so much more. So patience, it takes time. You have to listen and put your own agenda aside. I think those are the key kind of impediments that I think we're actually very successfully overcoming in this agenda.
Well, thank you very much, Christine. I think now we're going to transition into a bit of a speed round, right? So, Jude, I'm going to give you the floor for 2 minutes on, DLT and distributed ledger technology and blockchain. How important or not is this technology going to be over the next 2 years?
Oh, okay. You know what? I've been asked this question for about 4 or 5 years now. And 4 years ago, my answer would have said, yeah, next thing to watch. 4 years on, I got to admit, I agree completely with what Lisa said earlier. I've got a more nuanced response to that. Our challenge, as Lisa said, is as an industry, we remain challenged with the use cases. And when I say use cases, because I know a lot of people could say in the moderation, oh, but we did this, but we did it. Of course we did. But widespread, easily adoptable use cases that are either global, domestic, or even industry-wide remain a real challenge here. So is it the next big thing for us next year? Personally, I think probably not. I think it remains an exciting potential opportunity, but I feel that, as an industry, we've got more tangible areas that we can be focusing on as an industry, and such as, I think we've touched on it here today, payments modernization program with Payments Canada, links going live next year, the real-time rail, to me, and the everyday enhancements that we're doing with our clients. To me, that's more the focus that we have as an industry in the absence of those use cases. But look, if Han Solo was able to transfer credits in a CD bar on Tatooine, this presumes there was a ledger somewhere in that galaxy far, far away in the 70s. So I have faith we're going to get there too.
It's great. Definitely a Star Wars fan. So Sheila, over to you, 2 minutes. When you look at the cooperative sector and you look at the outstanding relationships that your members have, across the country, what are some of the ways that you think that they are going to be innovating and competing going forward?
No Star Wars analogies here, Todd. Sorry. I think on the innovation side, the feedback loop that I mentioned earlier in the credit union system, it really is genuine. Our clients, the credit unions, are our owners in many cases, and their customers are their owners, not just their customers. And so the chain of ownership actually really leads to extraordinary clarity of purpose and alignment on priorities, and really want to leverage this to make sure that the system remains really connected to local demand. And so this means, ease in bill payments and tax remittances, etc. Money movement between financial institutions, bulk and batch, etc. But as we look forward coming out of the pandemic, do we know enough what small businesses need? How can we help them? And so our focus is on bringing innovation to the small business so that they can recover, so that the community recovers, and really want to bring solutions that help drive revenues, lower their costs, as others have mentioned, drive efficiencies and reduce that overhead burden. And so I think working together is really where we're focusing on making sure that we get that local demand awareness and our priorities are fed by that. And we're working on what the credit unions need, as well as, what Central One's research, et cetera, brings to the table.
That's great, Sheila. So, Christine, we've never seen as much regulatory change as we have over the past few years, whether it's RPOF, which became the RPAA, or open banking or the like. What impact do you think that these regulatory changes are going to have on the future of value transfer?
So I think that I mentioned collaboration in my last segment, but where I get really excited with RPAA and open banking and everything else is a new era of competition, right? So if we put the customer in the center of everything that we do and we get excited about competition, which we clearly do. I mean, think of the examples on this panel. Think of Sheila's example of creating a fintech hub for credit unions, so there's cooperation and coopetition, and then there's full-on competition. But, it's a new era. And so I think that we may not see the dramatic milestones over the next couple of years, but I think that the minds have shifted. We should be excited. We should look to compete and prosper. But to do that, I think we've got to keep the customer education in mind. Market practice is top of my mind. I think there'll be a new level of potential chaos out there if we don't start thinking about, what happens when something goes wrong post some of these new regulatory paradigms. Not to be risk averse, but presumably we can prepare. In terms of training, education, and other innovative concepts around how to get the customers fully ready for this.
Okay, so Lisa, final question over to you. You get to be the oracle for the panel. What are your predictions on the biggest changes that we're going to see over the next 2 years?
For sure. So I echo Christine's comments on more competition and more innovation, definitely in the near term. What pragmatically that looks like, I think, is, safer, simpler, and lower cost payments for Canadians. We're going to be offering more options, more touchless and remote and electronic and digital options. I think you'll see that in the marketplace. I think you'll see more transparency. I mean, all the data and the context that comes with the data will also help with, you know, innovation and automation, but also the transparency around the status of the payment. So you're going to start to really see steps towards a more modernized payments world in Canada, where obviously it's, as Christine said, it's going to take some time. And I do believe that, you know, in the P2B space, we're going to start to see some real innovation in e-commerce around, you know, account-based payments and QR codes and proximity payments, just to make, you know, to extend that next step of where we've come through COVID with a preference of our customers for remote and digital payments. So those are some of my predictions.
Well, I think that's great. So we have some questions coming in from the floor. So Sheila, I'm going to start with you. I think the question here was, when you look at the federal and provincial credit unions that you folks are working with, what is Central One doing to create more opportunities for those folks to thrive in this innovative new world that we've been talking about?
Great question. Thanks for that. So Payments Canada brings new choices. Payments modernization through Payments Canada brings more choices in ways to pay and be paid that will help all credit unions. So as we chatted about today, the speed and data are the key benefits that we're excited we'll be able to bring to the system. Central One is a key player at the Payments Canada table to help shape what Payments Canada looks like, along with all the other Canadian significant financial institutions. So maybe just to bring this down to some examples, we, along with the other financial institutions, are in the final stages of testing with the new high-value payment system that is planned to go live later this summer. So we're playing that role at the national level for the system. And the objective, of course, here is to make sure that credit unions can really access the new system and deliver safer, more secure, high-value payments. And they have confidence that they're going to clear and settle those payments through the new solution. A key part of this is implementing the new risk model that will bring greater protection against risks of any single financial institution failing, create contagion effect across the ecosystem. And here I mean the credit union system. And I think Central One also is playing a role as a vocal contributor at Interact and Payments Canada tables on the rules and how they will apply to the credit union system. And really it's because the credit union's needs are somewhat different. Their constraints are different, and the approach with their membership is slightly different as well. So all these unique aspects and having a voice, so that the rules for the real-time rail, the high-value payments, and other innovations in payments really consider this uniqueness to the extent that it makes sense. And then lastly, I'd say the increased pace of money movement creates risks for everyone, and we need to make sure that this is carefully managed for all of our participants. And so we're really bringing a global player to the table as we work through our payments modernization to make sure we support the system in addressing this. So I hope that gives you a flavor of what Central One is up to for the credit union space.
That's really exciting. The other question that we had that came in is exploring the dynamic tension between a bank picking a fintech and making that available to the clients versus, fintechs wanting to do things, on their own and being able to access banking services, through APIs. So one where the bank is curating, and the other side, where the consumer decides which fintechs or experiences they're going to use, and then the bank's content gets plugged into that. How are you folks, and this is for the whole panel, thinking about that future state where you're curating, or whether the clients are assembling how they'd like to see fit? Who would like to start?
Sure, I'll go. Got my mic unplugged here. So or plugged in, if you will. So we just, I think we just mentioned the Retail Payments Activities Act and the open banking files. So, I mean, the reality is those are all about exactly what you just described. So when we talk about optionality, choice, and so on and so forth, admittedly, we lived in a world that said that we would choose our partners for sure from a financial institution perspective. But there is a new reality that this is exactly what we need to prepare for, and we are. So I think it's very real, and it's going to play out in the next couple of years if you believe it isn't already playing out, which I do believe that it already exists. This customer choice and connection.
Yeah.
Jude, over to you.
Yeah, I completely agree with what Christine is saying. Is we are moving in that direction. The regulatory, obviously, frameworks are moving in that direction, and we're moving in that direction. There are challenges, though, and this. Lisa spoke about this earlier. I think Christine, you spoke about, so did I. Which is, I'll reuse my expression. We have a spaghetti of legacy systems, not just within FIs, but within our corporate clients, within our commercial clients, within even some of our those intermediate businesses that we work with. That still needs to be straightened out. If you're going to do open APIs and allow fintechs to come in and pull the data, that's only going to be as good as all the underlying systems below. If the underlying systems below can't make that data readily available for it to be pulled, then that's your weakest link. So we're working on all of that, and there's a lot of investment in this space in all of our organizations. But we have a ways to go, and it's a fair question. When are we going to get there? I don't have a crystal ball. I can't tell you that, but I agree with Christine. There's been a lot of work in this space, a lot of I wouldn't say running, but at least fast walking in this space to get to where we are today, which is significantly further along than we were even 5 years ago.
So Lisa, I'll push the next question to you. When you look at, we're used to account-based payments, but when you look at non-fungible tokens and central bank digital currency and other stored value accounts, what role do you see these playing in the services that financial institutions offer to their clients?
For sure. I mean, as financial institutions, we're most interested in ensuring safe, secure, protected payments for our clients, whether it be consumers or merchants or businesses. And so some of those alternatives around tokenization and account-based payments offer that opportunity. Also around, ensuring affordable solutions. And so, many of those solutions, it's clear the path in terms of the value proposition and what it offers our clients. Some of them not so clear. And so, as a financial institution, not super interested unless we can figure out how the whole ecosystem will work and how it will all benefit kind of the key players for the use case. So as a financial institution, deploying and looking at all of those solutions in a way that makes sense for the use case. Some of them are more advanced than others, obviously.
I think we also have to look, absolutely, Lisa said it, technology, operations, safety, security, etc. But there's also regulatory environments to be considered, right? So if as a financial institution, you're holding balances that belong to a customer, there are regulations from CIBC that allows us to ensure that should something happen, that those balances are insured and the client will have access to their balances no matter what. When we start talking about some of these new currencies, how does that all fit into the model? Those questions haven't been answered, and that I think is key as well. It's not just the technology. I know we always push the technology because that's where a lot of the innovation comes from, but it has to come with, as Lisa said, a very macro view of the environment.
So another question, and when we look at faster payments, we're also looking at potential higher fraud losses. We're looking at differences in the pricing between slow rails and fast rails. So when you think about the benefit of fast, and you think about some of the trade-offs associated with faster payments, what do you think that that's going to mean for the decisions that your retail or consumer or corporate customers are going to take when they think about, do I ride the slow rail? Do I ride a fast rail?
Mm-hmm.
Who wants to start? Okay, Christine, over to you.
All right, thanks, Todd. So it depends where the clients want to be. It depends where the financial institutions and others that are actually providing the service want to be to some extent. I think there is a push and a pull here. I think you've rightly described the parameters, Todd. And so there's and we heard people talking about earlier the importance of simplicity, but you also just described what becomes more complex, right? Sorry, I'm going back and forth here, but this is the world we live in. This is with more choice. It's going to put our communications and our sales teams and all of that, at a new all-time high in terms of being able to describe to folks what the value propositions are of these various alternatives. I think there are use cases or very specific digital savvy examples, and of course we all reference the Ubers and the skip the dishes and those types of things where real time matters. Mm-hmm. And so, there will be this friction of push pull, and you've described the considerations.
And I think, as Christine said, the client. So in some areas, that real time is really important. In other areas, the client doesn't necessarily need that. They don't necessarily want to pay for that. If I'm talking, let's say, about payroll, I know I'm paying you every second Thursday. I've organized my files in such a way that I need to do that. Do I need a real-time rail for something that I already know is predictably going to happen 2 weeks ahead of time? Maybe, maybe not. So, that choice is really important. But I think also listening to the clients and what are truly their needs. Do they really need it that fast? Do they really need all the written instead? Do some of the existing, potentially cheaper technologies out there satisfy their needs? And so it's important that we don't just push people into the new stuff just because it's cool. For some people, some clients just don't, they're good with what they have. And that's an important thing to listen to that.
This is where the advice and the sophisticated advice, including AI and different things, come into, right?
Yeah. So Sheila, looked like you had something you wanted to say there. So I'll give you the last comment for the panel.
Didn't really, Todd. I really totally agree with what Jude was just saying. I think there's places where real time isn't needed, and organizations are going to make those choices, right? And in some cases, batch payments are going to be around. Christine said checks are going to be around for a while, and I think we just have to keep that flexibility there and support what the system needs. Some need real time and some don't. So it's interesting times. There's a lot of investment going on, a lot of great ideas, but we all have only limited resources, right? So we need to prioritize our investments in the right places.
Well, you can tell we live in interesting times because that was a really fast panel. Hard to believe that 55 minutes went by. So again, thank you very much to Christine, Sheila, Jude, and Lisa. Appreciate the time from Payments Canada today. Hope you enjoy the rest of the summit. And there's lots of breakout opportunities that have been scheduled. So, please continue the conversation in those groups. Thanks once again.